Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me today for this webinar. My name is Akshay Bhalla, and I'm here to talk with you about the topic navigating the PM transition. Here's a brief overview of what I'll cover today. We will start with an understanding of what the product manager role is. Then we'll talk about how you can navigate this transition and build some core PM skills in your current role. And at last, I'll share some tips on how you can crack this tough PM job market. And then at the last, we'll just wrap it up with some key takeaways. A quick introduction about myself. Before we start, I started my career as a software engineer. Over the last 13 plus years, I have transitioned through various product roles at organizations like Meta, Ernst& Young, PwC, and currently at Stripe. At Stripe, I'm a product manager where I lead the charter for observability products, which are the tools that provide Stripe's top customers with actionable insights into their integrations and payment health, which ensures peak performance and reliability for them. Today, my intention is to try and help anyone who is trying to transition to a PM role. I understand it can be overwhelming with so many resources available online. I'll try to distill them down into a process and into simple steps that can help you successfully navigate this career change. So, with that, let's dive in. Before even talking about the transition process, I think it's super important to understand what the role of a product manager is. There are a lot of misconceptions about what PMs do, so let's try to debunk some of those. Perception versus reality. A common misconception that I hear from people is that PMs are the idea people who dictate what gets spelled, but actually, the best PMs are the ones who actually refine the ideas, they validate their assumptions, and actually focus on problem solving. That's where like majority of us spend our time. Think about the most successful products that you have come across. For example, let's take Airbnb. The PMs behind this didn't just wake up with a eureka moment. Instead, what they did was they identified what their users' pain points were, thought really hard through some of the solutions, tried a couple of them, and then failed at them. But at the end, they worked cross functionally with their teams across the company to execute and deliver on something that solved the real user problems. Unlike a CEO, PMs don't really have direct authority on their teams. Instead, they have to leverage their influence through alignment and vision to actually get something delivered. It's a role that requires a lot of negotiation, prioritization, and constant communication upwards, downwards, sidewards to deliver something tangible and really deliver or build a product that they have envisioned. Another misconception is that PMs move on after launching a feature. So untrue. Actually, that's where the real work begins for a product manager. Post launch, PMs spend a lot of time analyzing the performance, gathering user feedback, iterating on the experience for the product that they've launched. Even today, like I spend a lot of time on weekly basis just trying to understand how the users are using my product. What are the problems that they're facing? Where are the friction points? So like PM spend a lot of time on those things post launch. In a sense, being a PM is not about having all the answers. It's about asking the right questions and guiding the teams to build impactful solutions. It's never a one man job. It's a whole army that takes to deliver a good product. Now that we have aligned on what the job is, let's debug the PM mindset that is required to that I have observed with great PMs. And I truly have had an opportunity to work with some of the great minds in this field. And I've really closely observed the commonalities between them. In my experience, what I've observed is the great PMs are relentlessly customer focused. They always start back from the user problems and then work backwards from it to build a product versus start from the solution. They don't just build features, they solve real problems. One of the biggest shifts when transitioning into a PM role is learning to think about problems and not just the solutions. For example, Instead of saying, let's add a chatbot, right? Like, here's the trend, and like everyone is thinking about like how we can leverage AI solutions. Instead of saying, let's add a chatbot, a good PM will always ask, what are the problems that we are solving? Do the users really struggle to find support? Would some kind of self-service help? Right? So such questions really help you align on what you want to build as a solution versus uh, starting from a solution and then like finding the problems to solve. Data-driven decision making is another critical skill. Product managers do not rely on gut instinct alone. Sometimes gut instinct helps. However, great PMs always validate their hypotheses with real world data. It could be qualitative through a lot of user interviews, or it could be quantitative through, let's say, logging or like the quantitative data that you have collected by other means. To really develop this mindset, I would encourage you to start observing how the products have evolved. For example, why did Instagram add Reels? Or why did Netflix remove its star rating system? Uh, Asking these questions will help you build your product sense, and that is something that is a key to transitioning into a PM role. Really strong PMs are also adaptable. Things will go wrong, right? Inevitably, things will go wrong. Priorities will shift, and the market conditions will continuously change. The ability to navigate uncertainty is truly a superpower in product management. And trust me when I say that, like we have come across multiple situations when you set out to deliver something and it changed midway because of some pivots, either from top down direction or something else. However, like being adaptable is something that really makes strong PMs and helps deliver strong products. So, who can successfully make this transition? What are the backgrounds of these PMs that and like what backgrounds they come from? So let's talk about some of that. People can transition into PM roles from all sorts of background. I've seen people transition from engineering, marketing, technical account management, sales, operations, and like so many different roles. So there is no set rule that if you come from a certain background, only then you can transition into a PM role. The key here is to recognize how your current skills are transferable into a product management role. Okay. For example, let's say you are a product marketing manager or general marketing person. You already understand your user segmentation very good, right? So, what is the user segmentation? What is the positioning and the engagement? All these skills are super crucial in becoming a product manager. So, you can actually transfer those skills into this new role. Let's take another example. So let's say you are a technical account manager, or you work in some sort of customer support or you have a user facing role. You are exposed to user pain points daily. Listen through them. Try and understand what are the users saying. Like understand the pain points deeply, and use that knowledge to advocate for product changes. No matter what background you come from, you can highlight relevant skills, bring those to the table, and pivot into becoming a PM. The best product managers leverage their past experiences to bring unique insights into the table. For example, I have had roles in product management. I have had roles as a software engineer. I have been a consultant in the past, a management consultant. So, all these different roles gave me an opportunity to pick something along the way that have actually added on to my PM experience. Next, let's take a look at how you can gain PM experience in your current role. First of all, you don't need a PM title to start thinking and acting like a PM. Many PMs got their first role by taking on PM like responsibilities in their current job. For example, if you're an engineer, you can volunteer to lead sprint planning or backlog prioritization. And let's say if you're in sales, analyze customer pain points, understand what problems they're going through, and really suggest and translate them into product improvements. I think like that can really help you hone those PM skills that you would be needing in future. Another good example is building a side project. If you're really passionate about pursuing this career, building a side project is a great way. Try looking at a product and write a product teardown. Uh, Also, designing a feature for an app. Think about any product that you use on a daily basis and really analyze what are the improvements that can be made. For example, who are the users for that particular product? What are the journeys? And what are the pain points along those journeys that you can identify? Once you have identified those pain points, think about how you would solve them. And once you have like thought through a couple of solutions, that's where like translating those pain points, those journeys, and those solutions into a vision will translate into a product idea. The key here is to build a portfolio of experiences that you can show uh, in your past experience and your current jobs that hiring managers want to see. Hiring managers really want to see that you understand the craft even before you have landed the role. Now, there are skills that you can apply in your current role, whatever that may be. So let's discuss how you can do that in detail. This Venn diagram very accurately depicts that PMs sit at the intersection of customer, business, and technology. However, one of the biggest misconceptions is that you need a formal PM position to gain this experience. In reality, you can start developing these skills right now, no matter what your role is. So let's dig deeper into individual points. Pick up PM adjacent tasks and take ownership of the solutions. A great way to start thinking like a PM is to proactively identify problems and take ownership of those solutions. So instead of waiting for the tasks to be assigned to you, I would encourage you to look for gaps, look for inefficiencies, and look for opportunities where you can actually contribute and improve. For instance, if you notice that the process is causing delays and you can streamline it, think about how you would do that. If there's a product that you work on and it is not performing well, think about what are the problem points and investigate them. And once you have identified those problem points, suggest improvements on how you can solve that. PMs don't just execute tasks, they define problems, they align the stakeholders, and drive solutions forward. You can actually start doing that today in your current role. Focus on customer value and business impact. So, PMs are constantly thinking about the customer. I do that on daily basis. Everything that you do, every decision that you make has to be customer focused. What problems are we solving and why does it matter for the user? You can adopt this mindset by asking a few questions. How does my work contribute in the end user experience? What impact does this project have on the business goals? What metrics or the top line metrics am I trying to move with this? For instance, if you work on, let's say, internal tools, right? Think about how you can improve the efficiency for your internal teams who are using them. If you're working on a marketing campaign, let's say, focus on the customer journeys. How does this campaign lead to engagement and retention, right? These are the questions that you can be asking in your current roles. By really shifting your mindset from delivering tasks to creating impact, you're already practicing an essential PM skill. Define and track success metrics using data. Now, a key PM responsibility is defining and tracking success metrics. We do that every day. We breathe in, breathe out metrics. Every project, feature, or initiative should have a measurable outcome. Uh, there's another webinar that I did in the past with Product School called Success, Measuring Success Using Measurability. So look into that and start building that culture of measurability within your teams. You can start developing the skill by incorporating metrics into your daily work. Think about what you're building and then how you can measure the success of what you have built. What happens once that feature or product launches? How will you ensure that it is actually providing the value that it intended to provide initially? Ask yourself, what's that one metric that matters for this project? And how will I know if I was successful, if this product is successful, if your team was successful? So asking these questions would really help you align yourself with the mental model of measurability. Now, let's take an example. So let's say if you work for as a customer support executive, or let's say a technical account manager, and introducing a new workflow to handle tickets faster will help your users do that. Like, think about that solution and end-to-end process on how you will do that. Measure how the response times have improved after you've launched this feature. Thinking through this journey would help you enable and assessing if your product was actually a success or not. Now, if you're launching a new internal process, track how the adoption rate has changed over time. What was it before you created and launched that process? And then what was it after you did it? Building this sort of data driven mindset will help you make your transition into a PM role much easier and more streamlined. As hiring managers, really look for candidates who can think in terms of measurable outcomes. Remember that PMs breathe in, breathe out data. We rely on data to make every product decision, be it qualitative or quantitative. Sometimes you have support from cross-functional partners like data science and data engineers. However, PM's key skill that every PM should have is like reading through data, analyzing data, and thinking in terms of metrics. Develop cross-functional collaboration and communication skills. So product managers never work in isolation. We have an army of people working with us to deliver something tangible to the user. We collaborate with engineers, designers, sales teams, executives, you name the roles, and we work with them. You can start building this skill today by working cross-functionally across different teams in your current role. Uh, think about the teams that you work on daily basis with, and start pitching your ideas with them. Start figuring out how you can work with them as a one cohesive unit versus working in silos. That skill will take you a long way in your PM journey. Now, let's take an example. So let's say if you're leading a project, I encourage you to take initiative to bring different stakeholders together. It takes a lot to get the buy-in of different types of stakeholders and make sure that everyone is aligned with your vision. So take that initiative, bring together the different stakeholders, facilitate the discussions, gather their inputs, and make sure that everyone is aligned before you start executing. One of the most important skills that you can actually build towards your PM journey is communication. I cannot insist enough on how important written and verbal communication skills are in this role. So, communication is a key. Practice simplifying complex topics, break them down into bullets, think in bullets, and really present your ideas as clearly as possible to different kinds of audience. You'll get an opportunity to work with all sorts of roles: technical, non technical, business. Communicating your idea crisply, concisely, and in the language that your audience understands is a big and powerful uh, trait that a PM can hone as a in their careers. So, highly encourage you build that muscle. So, overall, the slide looks pretty compressed, but I talked a lot about different things. So the key takeaway here is that you really do not need a PM title to start thinking like a PM. By proactively solving problems, thinking about customer and business impact, using data to measure success, working cross-functionally, with all these skills, you're already developing the skills that will set you up for success in your transition. So continue to work on that. If you have not worked on some of these areas, start identifying opportunities where you can get these skills. Identify one PM task that you can start doing each month, be it pitching a product idea, be it understanding and talking to the users, understanding their pain points, mapping out a user journey. Pick one task and start doing it. It could be leading cross-functional teams for all that matters, but helping hone these different skill sets would really help you set up for success. Now, this is an important topic. The PM job market is a tough one to crack. We all know that the bar is sky high, and to make it even more tough, the interview process is long and grueling. So, let's talk through some ways where you can stand out as a candidate and land your first job as a PM. So, now we have discussed a bunch of things about the skills that you can start building in your current role. Once you have the right experience, the next challenge is positioning yourself for a PM role. This starts with crafting your narrative. So think of a story as a bridge between where you are now and where you want to go in your journey. Identify the key moments in your career where you demonstrated these skills, such as solving complex problems or driving initiatives or influencing stakeholders. Like, gather all those stories and start formulating that narrative. Let's say you worked as a technical account manager and noticed a recurring user issue that required you to take an initiative. So, did you take that initiative to investigate the issue, propose the solution, and work with the engineers to fix it? I mean, you're already halfway there. You're working as a PM. That's a great story. So, now frame your story using a simple structure. Uh, Identify the problem, figure out a solution, and then articulate the impact of that solution. What challenge were you facing? How did you approach solving it? And then what was the outcome? Beyond storytelling, actively demonstrating PM skills would be really helpful in creating this narrative. So, write a product brief. By the product brief, I mean like what exactly was the problem that you started with, and then how did you navigate towards building a solution, and then how did you execute? What were the challenges you faced? Think about the trade-offs that you had to make along the way. What was the roadmap from inception to launch to post-launch? Think about all those stories and create a roadmap for maybe like an actual product that you worked on or a hypothetical product that you saw. All these things will collectively help you in positioning yourself for these PM's role. I have gotten a lot of questions about resume, like what does a good resume look like for a PM? Well, building a strong resume is a combination of multiple things. That includes relevant experience. It includes demonstrating the user impact that you have had or the business impact that you have had. It also includes the different skill sets that you have built along your way through your career. So, your resume is your ticket to getting an interview, right? So, it needs to be super sharp. I encourage you to focus on impact, as in what did you achieve and how did it move the business forward, or how did it solve a user problem, right? Wherever it is possible, try and quantify your achievements. So instead of saying that I led a project to improve user engagement, say that you launched a new feature that increased the engagement by X% in Y months, right? Quantifying helps, demonstrating impact. Tailor your resume to PM roles. So there are a lot of jobs out there, but not all jobs are the same. Read through the job descriptions carefully and try and mirror the language in your resume wherever applicable. I would prefix this by saying you do not have to lie on the resume and you shouldn't lie on the resume. However, I'm sure you can find areas in the skills from those job descriptions that you have actually encountered in your previous career roles or some things that you have solved along the way. So I encourage you to think deeply about them and articulating the well in your resume. And if you do not think that there is anything relevant in the job description that you worked on, probably that job is not the best fit for you as of now. And you can probably think about building your career profile towards that role in future. There are some common mistakes. So I would encourage you to avoid those mistakes, like listing tasks instead of accomplishments and using vague language, or sending a generic resume to all PM openings. It's important that you make that resume targeted as possible because, as I said, each PM role and each job description is different, and each company is looking for a different sort of skill set in a PM. So, for example, instead of saying, I managed a product backlog and worked with the engineers, rephrase it by saying, I prioritized and launched a new recommendation or a search engine that improved user retention by X% or Y%. Interview process. Interview process for PM roles can feel extremely intense, but I recommend leveraging online resources like Product School, YouTube videos, interview.io, mock interviews, or a lot of like books to read on to prepare, and I'm sure you can ace them. So I'll just outline what the process includes, and then go into depth for each of those interviews. But having said that, different companies have different interview styles and different interview processes. I will only call out the ones that I have observed to be common when interviewing for PM roles. So the process typically includes interviews like a behavioral interview, case study, or a product sense interview, and sometimes technical or a product design interview. So behavioral interviews typically focus on your past experience and how you have worked with different teams, solved problems, demonstrated leadership, all of that good stuff. So be ready to talk about the times when you have taken an initiative, overcame challenges, and drove the project forward. Product sense and case study is one of the most popular types of interview for a product manager role. And what they are trying to assess in this is if you can solve a product related problem on the spot. So it is important to show your problem solving approach and how you structure thinking. To be honest, the solution rarely matters. It's more about like how you approach it. I will not go into the different frameworks, but you can research on like what are the different frameworks that PMs use on day-to-day basis. They rarely work, but like demonstrating that structured approach could really help in the interview. So I would highly encourage going through that. I also encourage practicing simple case studies to hone the ability to work through some of these complex problems under time constraints, because you will be given a very limited time to think about a problem, work through a solution, and like think about all the trade-offs that you'll make along that. So more you practice, the better you can perform in these interviews. Finally, technical interviews, they may or may not exist depending on the role that you're interviewing for, but whenever they are, they require you to demonstrate an understanding of your product architecture that you have worked on. So it could be related to the architecture of your product or the APIs that were involved in it or any other technical elements. Or it could sometimes be as simple as just like walking through like what you have done and if you understand the product technically. So even if you aren't an engineer, I encourage you to start building the basic knowledge of what your product entails end to end, and ask questions about like what the technical components are and like how the architecture flows in different ways so that you can understand and communicate that effectively with your technical counterparts. With that, we covered a lot of content today. So let's wrap that up with some key takeaways. So you don't need to be a PM to start thinking like a PM, but apply those skills and mindset that we have discussed today in your current role. Like be proactive, think strategically, communicate effectively, and like you will be on your way to progress on the path of a PM role. Practice applying these skills in your day-to-day work and focus on problem solving problems, prioritizing customer impact, and measuring success. This hands-on experience will make your transition into a PM role much smoother. In addition to that, continue building your network. Product managers are often connected through online communities, conferences, networking events. I highly encourage you to build that community of PMs that you can talk to during your transition and get guidance from. Getting to know others in this field would help you stay informed and also like open the doors for your future opportunities. Finally, remember that this journey takes time. Don't get discouraged. If the transition isn't immediate, stay patient, persistent, and keep learning. Hope this webinar was helpful and all the best in your PM journey. Thank you.